65 million years ago, the Earth is ruled by dinosaurs. Then, a killer from deep space threatens the future of every living creature on the planet, including the dinosaurs who had ruled Earth for over 150 million years. Mass extinctions are a brutal part of our past and could be part of our future. Now witness a never-before-seen account of Day One in a catastrophe that forced every species on Earth to fight for their own survival, even the powerful dinosaurs. You are about to experience the most shocking 24 hours in the history of planet Earth. Doomsday on Animal Armageddon. Death doesn't bargain. August Strindberg, 1900. This is planet Earth, 65 million years ago. In just 3 days, a terrifying executioner, an asteroid 6 miles wide, traveling over 20,000 miles per hour, will strike the planet like a sledgehammer. If this killer hit us today, civilization would disappear. Lucky for us, it happened when dinosaurs ruled the world. Dinosaurs are the biggest creatures the Earth has ever known. They lived on every continent all over the world. They came in a dizzying variety of predators and plant eaters.
So I sense if we were able to go back then, let's imagine that we have a really cool airplane. And as long as you fly mile after mile after mile, herds of giant animals, dinosaurs.
In North America, they're hunted by the most fearsome dinosaur of all, Tyrannosaurus rex. High above central Mexico, giant pterosaurs called Quetzalcoatlus soar majestically on thermal drafts. And off the coast of Europe, marine reptiles stalk schools of ammonites, shelled creatures the size of tractor tires.
The dinosaurs were doing extremely well. We had huge dinosaurs throughout every continent. They were common in the tropics, they were common in the subtropics, they even made it up into the Arctic.
No creatures could challenge the dominion of the dinosaurs. Least of all, our own early ancestors. Tiny mammals like Purgatorius, who hide in dark burrow holes.
Dinosaurs and mammals appeared on Earth at approximately the same time, and that's something that often gets forgotten. So the entire time, the entire 163 million years that there were dinosaurs, there were also mammals. But mammals, for whatever the reasons, remained very, very small. Whereas your smallest dinosaur, including tail, is probably something like 4 feet, say the size of a Cornish hen, mammals were mouse-sized.
But the balance of power is about to shift, suddenly and completely, in an event known to scientists as the Cretaceous Tertiary, or KT extinction.
The KT extinction was the worst day in Earth history. This was a day, an entire era, filled with thousands, millions of species, comes to an end abruptly.
The leading theory suggests the extinction was caused by the impact of a large asteroid or comet. If it was an asteroid, It would have originated in the asteroid belt, a cold region just beyond the orbit of Mars, where thousands of these giant space rocks reside. The asteroid's size is beyond imagination. It's the length of the San Francisco city limits, and its mass equals that of all the materials for every building in the entire United States.
The best analogy I've heard of is that it's a hunk of ice and rock that is the size and maybe even the shape of Mount Everest. So imagine that you have a great model of the Earth and you've got a little X-Acto knife and you've got a little Mount Everest and you cut it off and cut it off and cut it off. And then you're up there in space and you throw it at the Earth, bang!
The physics of disaster are set. This is the last normal day on Earth. In 24 hours, the dinosaurs will meet their end, and you will be there with them. In Alaska, a herd of duck-billed hadrosaurs voraciously eat their way through a lush forest, blissfully unaware of the pain to come. They're giant animals, each one the length of 3 cars and twice as tall as a man. They use their beaks like salad tongs to pluck the leaves at the tops of trees. They pass the vegetation to the back of their mouths, where 1,600 overlapping teeth act like a cheese grater to shred tough-to-digest pine needles. They hoot through inflatable sacs built into their noses, ghostly booms that sound almost like a wood bassoon.
The head structures that you see on duckbills, in combination with the herding behavior, imply a very, very strong social interaction in these dinosaurs. And interestingly enough, the closest living relative to dinosaurs, which are birds, of course have all those things very strongly built into their behavior.
They're hungry creatures, too busy to notice the glimmer of light dancing in the air, a fragment of the killer comet streaking through the sky and just as deadly. Suddenly, the herd stampedes, shrieking with fear, trampling whatever is in their way.
It would be absolutely terrifying. You have animals going crazy, the herd is going to take on a herd mentality, and naturally there's going to be panic and there's going to be trampling.
If a fragment can create this kind of destruction, the impact of the entire comet is unfathomable. No one knows if dinosaurs had any idea their end was near. But even if they did, what could they have done? Nothing. It is now 12 hours before impact. You are witnessing a typical scene in North America 65 million years ago. This is modern-day Montana. The animals here have no idea that a fragment has just struck in Alaska. 2 troodons are on the hunt. They've set their sights on a young hadrosaur. Troodons are small, but vicious, more than capable of taking down large prey. Troodon is just 3 feet tall, but one of the most intelligent dinosaurs of all time. They may have hunted in packs, like wolves, using a razor-sharp toe claw to rip and eviscerate their prey. But just when the troodons set into their meal, a T-Rex emerges into the clearing. The awesome beast is as long as a tennis court and weighs 16,000 pounds, as much as an African elephant.
Our biggest predators on the planet today, the lions, maybe the really big tigers, these are tiny compared to a T-Rex.
I've been on the ground around big cats like pumas, and it's incredible how big they are and how aware you are of how small and weak and defenseless you are. Now imagine an animal that's the size of an elephant that has a head as long as a human being that is used to eating thousands of pounds of meat in a day. I can't even imagine how horrifying that would be.
T-Rex's mouth is designed for a single purpose: to kill and eat prey. Its powerful jaws can puncture its victim with over 10,000 pounds of force, enough to bite through flesh and easily crush bone.
T-Rex, in an ecological sense, was a walking meat cookie cutter. T-Rex had a mouth that's shaped like a U, and it had teeth with flat edges around the front to just reach in and take out big scoops of meat.
He cannot chew, and instead swallows his food whole, gulping down over 150 pounds of meat in a single bite. But it won't be enough to sustain him. Not through what's coming. Much of what we know about Tyrannosaurus rex and other North American dinosaurs comes from an area known as the Hell Creek Formation. Today, it is a remote wilderness in the Badlands of Montana and North Dakota. In the Cretaceous, it was a vast alluvial plain teeming with dinosaurs.
For 3 million years, streams were depositing sediments. During their flood stages, they would have clays and muds forming all over the floodplain deposit. And what we see now are the soils that were laid down, that were deposited during that 2 to 3 million years, starting from the bottom, just one soil after another, coming up to the top. And the dinosaurs and the plants were doing very well for those final 2 million years of the Cretaceous.
T-Rex is the king of the Hell Creek. For days now, sleep patterns worldwide have been disturbed by the constant glow from the strange light in the sky. It's the dinosaurs' only clue that the life they've known for over 150 million years will soon be over. These creatures that have ruled the Earth for so long suspect nothing. Extinction is here. What once sprang from the Earth sinks back into the Earth. Lucretius, 50 BC. You are about to experience the end of the reign of dinosaurs. At this time, Earth was nearly destroyed in a Doomsday event that rivals any disaster movie. An asteroid containing 1,000 million tons of rock and ice is about to slam into the Earth at 20,000 miles per hour.
We can go through with our mathematical formulas and work out this must have happened and this many ergs and this would have burned up. But the immensity and the totality of it, again, is beyond human experience.
The kingdom of the dinosaurs has just 5 hours left. This is ground zero. Ironically, it isn't on the ground at all. Today, it is the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. The sea here will be obliterated first, along with the teeming life and violent drama that exists below the surface.
If we were a diver, luckily enough to be there, we wouldn't have seen the schools of fish that we know now. We would have seen schools of fish and schools of ammonites, these beautiful chambered cephalopods, like squids stuffed in a big shell. The living nautilus is the closest relative. So we see schools of these in among the fish. And then diving among them all, we see the marine reptiles.
The most feared marine reptile is the mosasaur. The mosasaur is a voracious predator nearly 50 feet long and weighing 20 tons. It used an excellent sense of smell to track its prey slowly and deliberately.
I don't think it's reasonable to say that the latest Cretaceous seas were more dangerous than modern seas. But I have to tell you that an animal like a mosasaur would be a very formidable predator, certainly as formidable as a great white or a killer whale. And I, for one, would not like to be the seal in the latest Cretaceous waiting to be served up to one of those animals.
Mosasaurs prefer the slow-moving ammonites. Today, however, he needs to hurry. From the moment the asteroid appears in the sky above, he'll have mere seconds to finish his meal before he's destroyed. On a coastline not far from what will be ground zero, these Phobosuchus have only seconds to live. These giant saltwater crocodiles are 40 feet long and can stand eye to eye with a full-grown man. Little do they know, planet Earth has just 10 seconds left. In mere seconds, the asteroid, 1,000 billion tons of it, is completely vaporized.
We're talking about something that's traveling at many miles per second. So basically what happens is that the 6-mile-wide asteroid becomes entirely vaporized and becomes a 6-mile-wide bomb.
It gouges a hole 30 miles deep, as far underground as any plane has flown above the Earth. The energy is so great, the solid rock of the Earth's crust is acting like a liquid. The same dynamics are at work when a stone is thrown into a puddle of water.
You calculate the energy involved and it's 100 million megatons. Where 1 megaton is an average-size hydrogen bomb, 100 million average-size hydrogen bombs going off all at once. The energy released is colossal.
The impact is even visible from the moon.
We are talking a disaster that out-disasters anything Hollywood could even imagine.
In a split second, all the water in a 100-mile radius flashed to steam, annihilating millions of animals instantly.
Anything that was within a few dozen kilometers of the impact, they would be completely unaware that anything had ever happened. The shock wave would hit them on a time scale that is much too fast for nerve cells to respond. They'd be there and then gone.
For them, death is merciful. They are the lucky ones. Anything within a 250-mile radius of the impact dies instantaneously. Further out, they would have seen a bright flash of light. But did they realize they were marked for destruction? Just 3 seconds after the impact, a superheated cloud of rock vapor rushes outward from ground zero at hypersonic speeds. The shockwave. The coast of Texas is just 2 minutes away. The entire continent of North America is next. Tectonic forces, erosion and other natural processes have drastically changed the Earth since the age of dinosaurs. So how do scientists know that an asteroid or comet hit our planet 65 million years ago? The answer goes back 30 years, when father and son team Luis and Walter Alvarez discovered traces of a very rare element, iridium, in a layer of sediment dated to 65 million years ago. The source of the iridium was a difficult puzzle.
And so the question was, well, where is this iridium from? We know it doesn't occur on the surface of the Earth. That meant that this very layer right here contained the actual remnants of an asteroid that had come from outer space. So for us it's very exciting because when you look in this layer, right in this place right here, what you see are the actual iridium from the original asteroid that hit the Earth 65.5 million years ago.
Confirmation of the impact came in 1990, when the remnants of a very large crater were discovered in the Yucatan Peninsula. These discoveries touched off a flurry of investigation. For those scientists that can decode it, the impact layer is a chilling record of those final days. The end of the reign of dinosaurs came 65 million years ago, when a hammer blow from space set in motion the worst 24 hours in the history of life on Earth. You were experiencing just the first few seconds of the catastrophe when a superheated shockwave of vaporized rock rushed out from ground zero.
Almost all of the object that hit is vaporized. Not just fractured, not just melted, but converted to vapor. A similar amount of the Earth is also vaporized.
At supersonic speeds, the shockwave spreads to the northwest. Due to the angle at which the asteroid hit, it thunders towards the coast of the United States.
And now the shockwave would have been like a freight train just blowing right by, right through these dinosaurs.
As much as 3 minutes after impact, animals in Texas may not have known anything was wrong, or that they would soon be incinerated. These foraging hadrosaurs may have had only a moment to think about the glowing sky and the rumbling in the distance. Then their thoughts would have been obliterated, along with flesh and bone. Further inland, these pterosaurs, called Quetzalcoatlus, have ruled the skies for many millennia.
These things would have been incredible flyers. But here's an animal with a wingspan of 45 feet. A Piper cub, which holds 2 human beings comfortably and flies around, has a wingspan of 36 feet. So does it require a landing strip? How does it take off? How does it land? Where does it live? Those are all questions that are just completely up in the air. Unfortunately, they're not particularly well fossilized because their bones are so fragile.
So if we look at birds, we can look for clues to what their lifestyle was like. And the one group of birds that has that same combination of features is storks. And most storks, although they're very capable flyers, do most of their hunting on the ground. So now imagine a stork that's about 15 or 20 feet tall, about as tall as a giraffe. It was probably scouring the landscape for all kinds of small things, including baby dinosaurs.
But there will be no hunt today. The shockwave roars towards them and blows them apart. The shockwave advances. Even the mighty T-Rex, unable to find cover, won't survive. The only animals to survive do so by sheer luck, sheltered in caves or by hillsides. From relative safety, they watch the catastrophe unfold.
The animals are already disoriented and confused. Some of them have probably been killed outright by the strength of the shockwave. And the shocked survivors are milling around, not sure what to do, and now fires are starting all over the place.
The shockwave lays waste to the entire continental United States. Any open ground smolders. This place is battered to death, broken and charred. Nature played no favorites between predator or prey, parents or children. A small mammal in a burrow hole heads to the surface to investigate. Our ancestor, Purgatorius. She ventures out. Lucky for us, the future of the human race is still possible because her burrow protected this small, relatively unknown animal.
You can invert the familiar phrase, you can hide, but you can't run. Hiding was the key, sheltering was the key. And dinosaurs could not shelter. They didn't dig, and they didn't swim, so there was no shelter available to them.
10 minutes after the impact, the shockwave dissipates. Its energy spent before it crosses into Canada. Incredibly, animals outside of its reach may still not have known that disaster had struck. For these Triceratops, it is a day like any other. Triceratops is an iconic dinosaur. They're 9 feet tall and weigh as much as 26,000 pounds. Their bony frills may look like a shield, but they were probably used in mating rituals, with intricate designs on them meant to attract mates.
Triceratops and the other horned dinosaurs were social animals, just as we find with antelope on the African plains today. So picture a giant herd of antelope, only these aren't the antelope that weigh maybe half a ton. These are Triceratops that weigh 3 or 4 or 5 tons, and there might be hundreds or even thousands of them in the herd, adults and juveniles and babies all together. The adults are probably protecting the younger individuals.
Then, a distant rumbling. Suddenly, the earth shakes. This is the worst earthquake they've ever felt. The worst earthquake in the 600 million year history of life on Earth.
The very impact itself caused a magnitude 13 earthquake, hundreds of times stronger than any earthquake that we've ever recorded or felt. It would knock down buildings all over North America if one of that size occurred today. It would knock down buildings in China.
Certainly, the earthquake itself would have knocked everybody off their feet. Fissures in the earth would have opened up here and there. You could have certainly had dinosaurs falling into cracks in the earth. But again, the earthquake's not going to kill off too much. The earthquake, of course, is just the beginning of a series of calamities.
The superquake ripples across the world, triggering enormous landslides as far away as Antarctica. For most animals on Earth, this quake was the first inkling they had that the end had come. "30 minutes have passed since the impact. The quake still rattles the Earth. The aftershocks will continue for days, but there are some who still tenaciously cling to life. But now a frightening new dimension of this dinosaur Armageddon is revealed. Colossal tsunamis are on their way. Immense walls of death, like entire mountain ranges on the march. There's no turning back. The worst day in history is not yet over. After slamming into the Earth, traveling 150 times faster than a jet airliner, the asteroid has triggered one disaster after another. A superheated shockwave of vaporized rock has scorched all of the continental United States. And the aftershocks of a colossal magnitude 13 earthquake continue to ripple through the crust. You are witnessing this apocalyptic disaster. It is now 45 minutes after the impact. For animals far away from Ground Zero, in Africa, Asia, Europe, or Antarctica, the true disaster has not yet arrived. Those that live near the coast will soon see death approaching. The ocean heaves from the violence of impact. Giant mega tsunamis form.
This tidal wave rushes out from Ground Zero in concentric waves. There would have been more than one of them. There would have been several probably. And they're moving out at very rapid speeds.
The mega tsunamis race across the Atlantic at over 600 miles per hour, faster than the speed of sound. On a coastline in what is now West Africa, dinosaurs are just beginning to recover from the earthquake. The water pulls away from shore, an eerie sight.
On the horizon would be a little dark line, which is the wave, the tsunami. It's coming closer and closer. Only as it gets closer, it doesn't stay a little dark line. It gets higher and higher and higher. Takes them with everything else, the trees, the debris, the logs, mixes them all up in a big flood and scatters them across the landscape.
The tsunami that hit Asia near Christmas time a couple of years ago was amplitude of a few meters. And here you're talking hundreds of meters.
The mega tsunami rages across the globe. No coastline is left untouched.
I had this vision of these poor drowned dinosaurs, some floating and all the rest, as you get out to sea and it quiets down, sort of sinking from the surface down into the depths. And imagine that you're some marine reptile that survived it. And now all around you is raining dinosaurs. Literally. Drowned dinosaurs sinking like little petals down to the bottom. So again, nothing in our imaginations, in our history, would prepare us for seeing this.
In the aftermath of global disaster, what is surprising now is not how many have died, but how many have survived. In pockets around the globe, battered survivors struggle to understand what has happened to their world. Yet still another threat gathers. The sky is indeed falling.
Material in this crater, 100 miles in diameter, blown up into the atmosphere. Rocks the size of your fist, the size of houses, were blown away from the crater. These fist-sized rocks went into orbit and came rushing back into the Earth's surface as meteorites.
So you've got chunks of the Earth's crust flying back down through the atmosphere, leaving burning trails like the largest meteor shower ever.
For hours, the meteor shower circles the globe. The skies are turned to flame.
So the upper atmosphere where these shooting stars came back in would have heated to a temperature of something like 1,000 to 1,200 degrees, hotter than the elements in your oven, for about 3 hours. You want to know what that feels like? Turn on your oven to broil, stick your hand in there and leave it for 3 hours and see what happens.
6 hours after impact, the arid plains of Mongolia seem strangely normal. The canopy of fire hasn't reached here yet. In this place, cousins of the North American troodon, small carnivores called Byronosaurus, stalk the plentiful herds of Protoceratops. Protoceratops is very similar to the more famous Triceratops. Its jaws are perfectly adapted to feed on the desert brush.
It had a big beak for biting plants, and it had shearing teeth on the sides of its jaws for chopping its plants, and cheeks to hold the food in while it was being chewed. So it was already a very efficient processor of plant material.
But Protoceratops is not designed for combat. And in this savage world, it's a fatal flaw. But the drama is cut short. The rain of fire sweeps in, consuming this place too. Further away from Ground Zero in the Yucatan, the meteors are smaller. Incredible as it may seem, most are no bigger than a grain of sand.
In the Atlantic Ocean, there are glass beads, beds of glass beads, because all of this molten rock flies out in the atmosphere and comes raining back down as glass or molten glass.
7 hours after impact, the entire planet feels like it's burning to the ground. There are no rules for Armageddon, no guidelines for these vulnerable creatures. Only instinct. And every instinct inside their bodies screams run. In the skies over what is now Alberta, 2 Quetzalcoatlus are caught in the storm. There is nowhere to hide for these giant beasts, with wingspans as large as an F-16 fighter jet. They are battered to death by the flaming rocks. Surface temperatures spike within a few hours. It's unbearably hot. Hot enough to boil rivers. Fires break out in every corner of the globe, consuming the dead and dying. In all, 20 million megatons worth of energy scorches planet Earth.
If you divide 20 million megatons by the surface area of the Earth, you discover that that's equivalent to 1 megaton every 6 kilometers or so. A hydrogen bomb every 6 kilometers around the entire planet on a timescale of a few hours.
It is a miracle that anything survived this cataclysm. It is now 10 hours after impact. The world is completely unrecognizable. Billions have died in wave after wave of disaster. Yet still some remarkable animals persist. Purgatorius huddles beneath the ground, waiting out the storm. While the world of the dinosaurs crumbles, our ancient ancestor does what it must to survive. Lay low, ration food, and don't go outside. From its burrow hole, it may have heard the mournful death throes of a dying world. The powerful may soon fall, and it will be the meek who may well inherit the earth. It is now 14 hours since a 6-mile-wide asteroid slammed into Earth, ushering in a global cataclysm, a dinosaur Armageddon. Night descends, a night from which the dinosaurs will not emerge. Ground Zero in the Yucatan is a smoldering cauldron, sterilized of life. A massive rim, 150 miles in diameter, marks the boundary. A ring of mountains raised in minutes, rising 3 miles off the sea floor. It will take millions of years for them to erode away. In the debris left behind by the impact, people will one day find blades of crystallized carbon, tiny diamonds, which testify to the ferocious temperatures of impact.
We have this enormous set of events on a scale that we had not seen for 600 million years, for the entire age that multicellular life or animals were living on the planet. An incredible event.
Within a 1,000-mile radius, there is virtually nothing left alive. Within 3,000 miles, only insects and small animals. You need to travel 5,000 miles from the impact site to find any dinosaurs alive. And when you do, they are almost always alone. These lucky few inhabit a shattered landscape of uprooted trees, falling rock debris, and raging fires. No one can be sure exactly how the brains of these dinosaurs worked, but clearly, this was more destruction than any animal brain had been asked to comprehend before.
One can't imagine the panic or the chaos associated with those early events after the asteroid. They would have essentially been thrust into a situation of sensory overload. A great deal of noise, some of it natural due to all the various physical things that were going on in the environment, but also much of it induced by animals yelping in pain, panicking, honking, searching for mates. It would have been chaotic.
In just this first day, the dinosaurs' fate was sealed. Scientists don't know for certain how quickly they disappeared. Perhaps hours, perhaps days, months, or years.
I think almost everyone would agree that the world of the dinosaurs fell apart faster than we can recognize in the sediments. But from the standpoint of ecosystemic change, which is really what we care about here, it doesn't matter whether it took 1 day, 1 year, 100 years, 1,000 years, because ultimately there was a significant fundamental ecosystem turnover between the end of the Cretaceous and the beginning of the Tertiary.
Any life being created in a harsh universe is a miracle. Losing so much so suddenly is an apocalypse. After 150 million years of ruling the world, the dinosaurs fade away to extinction. Their fossilized bones, the only testament that they ever existed at all. We are the beneficiaries of their demise, because their death paved the way for our ancient ancestors to inherit the Earth. Perhaps there is something for us to learn from this swift and catastrophic extinction, that nothing lasts forever. Nature can brutally topple even the most dominant creatures. There may be a comet or asteroid circling our solar system right now, with mankind's name written on it.
If the same event that killed the dinosaurs were to suddenly appear in the sky, it would take a lot more than Bruce Willis to save human civilization. These movies, Deep Impact and Armageddon, gave us this false sense of security of, wow, we can nudge them, we can move them, we can do something. You can on a small asteroid. A big one, no. It's not going to be possible to move a big one out of the way. Anything KT size or larger, if it's going to hit us, it's going to hit us, and nothing humans can do are going to stop it.